Then you may start. You're on mute.
Okay, can you hear me now?
Yes, thank you.
Okay, that's the beginning of every meeting, I think. Good morning, everyone, and welcome to the New York Metropolitan Transportation Council's Program, Finance, and Administration Committee, the PFAC meeting. I'm Lynn Weisskopf, representing New York State Department of Transportation Commissioner Marie-Therese Dominguez, and I will be chairing the meeting this morning. This meeting is being recorded, and the recording will be posted on the NYMTC website within the next 2 weeks. Today's meeting is available virtually via webinar as well as in person at the NYMTC offices at 25 Beaver Street in Lower Manhattan. For the meeting audience who are on the webinar, your lines will remain muted throughout the meeting. The chat pod is available for your use and it is being monitored by NYMTC staff. During the public participation section of the agenda, registered speakers will be called on in the order of their registration. Registered speakers who are participating via webinar will be called on and their lines will be unmuted for their remarks. At this time, I will begin the roll call, and when I say your agency, I ask that each representative state your name and the NYMTC principal that you are representing today. So first for the voting members, and I will start with myself, Lynn Weisskopf, representing the New York State Department of Transportation Commissioner Marie-Therese Dominguez. New York City Department of Transportation.
Renee Peter-Smith, representing New York City DOT Commissioner Yanis Rodriguez.
Thank you. New York City Department of City Planning.
Yes, good morning. Jack Schmidt, representing City Planning Commission Chair and Director of the Department, Daniel Garodnik.
Thank you. Metropolitan Transportation Authority.
Good morning, Stephanie Delisle, representing Chairman and CEO Jana Lieber.
Thank you. Nassau County.
Good morning, David Viana, representing County Executive Bruce Blakeman.
Thank you. Suffolk County. Suffolk County available this morning? Okay, we'll give one more call.
I apologize. I must have been on mute. This is Chris Chatterton representing Suffolk County Executive Steve Ballone.
Thank you. Rockland County.
Pat Gurdon representing Rockland County Executive Ed Day.
Thank you. Putnam County.
John Tully representing County Executive Mary Ellen Odell.
Thank you. Westchester County.
Kelly Sheehan representing Westchester County Executive George Latimer.
All right, thank you. And now for the advisory members, the Port Authority of New York and New Jersey.
Good morning, Jay Sheffield representing the Port Authority of New York and New Jersey, Executive Director Rick Cotton.
Thank you. New Jersey Transit. New Jersey Transit available this morning? Okay, North Jersey Transportation Planning Authority.
Hi, this is David Barrand representing NJTPA Executive Director Mary Amin.
Thank you. New York State Department of Environmental Conservation. Okay, Federal Transit Administration.
Good morning, this is Dan Moser representing FTA Region 2 Administrator Stephen Goodman.
Thank you. Federal Highway Administration. Okay, United States Environmental Protection Agency.
Good morning, this is Lily Black with Region 2 under Regional Administrator Lisa Garcia.
Okay, thank you. Was New Jersey Transit able to join? Or the Federal Highway Administration?
No, they are both not here today.
Okay. All right, very good. Thank you. And by my count and under our operating procedures, it looks like we have a quorum for today's meeting. So we will move to the first item, which is a presentation on the recommendations of the Clean Freight Corridors Planning Study. I would like to call on Jerry Bogat, NYMTC staff, to begin this presentation. Go ahead, Jerry, when you're ready.
Thank you, Lynn. Good morning, everyone. So I'm going to introduce the presentation for this study, and then the project manager, the NYMTC project manager, Leslie Forger, will take us through. It's a very significant study that has been completed, and we are presenting the results to the Program Finance Administration Committee. This is a unique study that has resulted from the planning done for our regional freight element of the regional transportation plan. So if we go to the next slide quickly, I'm going to provide a little bit of context. Next slide? Yeah, okay, great. So again, it was recommended initially in the freight element of the previous regional transportation plan that was adopted in 2017, and it's been funded through NYMTC's Unified Planning Work Program using federal funding. It also is being coordinated with the Metropolitan Area Planning Forum, which is a consortium of 10 metropolitan planning organizations and councils of government in eastern Pennsylvania, northern New Jersey, metropolitan New York State, and southwestern and central Connecticut. So the scope of this study is not limited to the NYMTC planning area, but rather it covers the entire area of the map form. It's assessing opportunities for the designation and development of clean freight corridors as a means of expediting investment in fueling and charging infrastructure. And as you can see on this slide, the approach included an inventory of the existing infrastructure. It reviewed current and emerging clean fuel technologies and identified gaps between existing and future infrastructure capacities. It also analyzed goods movement trends and forecasts, and it identified optimal corridors for recommended corridor designations. And that, again, is a prelude to making investments down the road. Leslie will take you through a lot of these topics in more detail. Next slide, please. Next slide. So what do you do when the slide doesn't advance? That's Fidel, is there anything?
Guys?
Improvise? Yeah, that's always good. So the project team for this, it involved a study team led by Cambridge Systematics and managed by NYMTC staff. Leslie Forger was or is the project manager for the effort. He's going to take you through. I did want to show, though, the map of the map forum area once we get this technical glitch. The map forum is a unique organization. It is basically these organizations are working together, have a memorandum of understanding to coordinate their planning processes on a larger regional basis, covering most of the New York City metropolitan region, which obviously goes beyond NYMTC's planning areas. The idea here is that identifying a network of corridors for investment is only optimal at the multi-state level to reinforce the availability of this infrastructure for trucks and commercial vehicles moving through the area. It makes the most sense to look at it at that scale, and we will be coordinating the result, and are coordinating the results of this study with our partners in the map forum to look at potential investments throughout the multi-state region, not just in the NYMTC planning area. Leslie, if you are available, can we share maybe Leslie's screen?
I was just thinking that.
Yeah. Wait a minute, it's starting to change. Here we go. There's the multi-state area that is the study area for this effort. As you can see, we go all the way out to eastern Pennsylvania and as far into Connecticut as Hartford. And this has been a very healthy group to be part of. NYMTC is one of the 10 constituent organizations, and it really served as a wonderful platform for this particular effort. Now, I'm almost afraid to ask, but can we advance to the next slide? There we go. So there's the study team again. Cambridge Systematics was the lead consultant on this. We had CalSTART with their technical knowledge as a sub-consultant, and Arch Street Communications helped us with the outreach and the coordination of the advisory group. But Leslie was the NYMTC program manager, and I'm going to turn the presentation over to you, Leslie, and I hope the slides can advance for the presentation. So it's all yours, Leslie.
Thank you, Jerry. Am I being heard clearly?
Yeah.
Yep, we can hear you.
Yes, you are.
Excellent. Thank you. All right, so next slide, please. All right, so the study, I'm going to take you through the existing clean fuel infrastructure and corridor destinations. Next slide, please. So this study developed an infrastructure inventory, just an assessment of what's out there that can support existing clean or cleaner fuels technology. The study identified existing clean fuel infrastructure and Federal Highway Administration corridor destinations. It also filtered stations to match medium and heavy duty compatibility. So we didn't just, scan for every single last cleaner fuels station that's available. We only had those, illustrated those or highlighted those that can support medium and heavy duty vehicles, i.e. trucks. And the infrastructure inventory also produced maps for each fuel type and identified gaps in infrastructure networks. Next slide, please. So the inventory covered 4 fuel types. It's a little hard to see here, but it's liquid petroleum gas, hydrogen stations, or hydrogen, compressed natural gas, or compressed natural gas stations, and electric vehicle stations, stations that support electric vehicle or charge electric vehicles. Next slide, please. All right, so the next part of the procedure was a technology scan of clean fuels and projections of clean fuels implementation. Next slide, please. So the state of technology, its adoption and regulation. The study just basically characterized the state of technology for the major clean fuel types I just described and the associated vehicles. The study also projected clean fuel adoption patterns among truck fleets through 2050. It also described the study area's policy and regulatory landscape for clean fuel technologies and identified clean freight corridor destination opportunities and corridor network gaps. Next slide, please. All right, so what you're seeing here looks a little scary, but it's actually forecasted adoption rates. And this is just sort of a graph or a series of graphs showing 3 different scenarios. So 3 scenarios are illustrated here. Scenario 2A, which is above, is the more aggressive adoption model, while scenario 2B, which is the middle graph, and 2C, the graph on the bottom, are less aggressive adoption models. In all these adoption models, diesel truck sales are projected to comprise less than 50% of all sales by 2035 in all 3 scenarios. So, according to the models that was run here, by 2035, basically half of all truck sales will be diesel fuel trucks. And by 2050, according to these models, battery electric vehicles are projected to form the highest sales in all 3 scenarios, with fuel cell electric vehicles comprising the second highest, about 28 to 33% of sales. Compressed natural gas generally the third highest, from 4 to 29% of sales, and diesel truck sales fourth, only 0.5 to 6% of all sales, And then liquid natural gas at that point will be negligible. There'll be hardly any liquid natural gas trucks being sold by 2050, according to this model. So that's an interesting trend that's developing here, or that this model was forecasting. All right, next slide, please. Truck flows and commodity forecasts. So the study, as I said before, had commodity forecasts and highlighted truck flows. Next slide, please. So corridor level truck flows, what you're seeing here is a corridor level truck flows for the Interstate 495 corridor in Nassau County. We did one for a number of corridors throughout the region that was described. So the study here analyzes freight truck flows by origin and destination, by distance, by commodity, and by direction. This corridor level truck flows also analyzes truck trips by long haul, short haul, and drayage, which are basically sort of shuttle trips from ports to relatively nearby locations. Next slide, please. Freight demand generators. So basically, this was determined or ascertained by through data and information sources, and that came through business establishment data via vendor sources. It came through business pattern data via census data, or through the U.S. Census. The information also came through recent plans and studies, and also interviews with NYMTC members held in the summer and fall of 2020. So we had a number of ways for obtaining data for the study. The analyst approach, was the following. We basically located businesses within 5 miles of key freight-related corridors and included them in the study. We also analyzed freight-generating industry sectors in North America. We also used the industry. Excuse me, I kind of misspoke there. We basically first we analyzed. Let me back up and try this again. First, we analyzed business located within 5 miles of key freight corridors. We also analyzed freight-generating industry sectors. We also went through North American Industry Classification System, or NAICS, data. Now, NAICS is basically, a system that's there which collects data about, among other things, collects data about businesses, and is useful for our purposes here. And we only analyzed businesses that only had locations greater than 100. We only modeled those businesses. So if a certain corporation or business had less than 100 people, it wasn't modeled. Next slide, please. All right, so regional commodity and flows and forecasts. So as you can see here, 88% of freight tons in the Metropolitan Area Planning Forum region, which was described earlier in this presentation, moved by truck in 2018. That's the data that we received and we got. Total freight volume in tons is expected to increase 37% through 2045. So between now and 2045, the total freight volume is expected to increase 37%. And that's a substantial increase. Okay, next slide, please. Clean freight corridor designations. So how do we arrive at this? Next slide, please. So the method we used was to determine, readiness level variables. So how do we get this? We weighted composite scores based on the Technical Advisory Committee input, which, the Technical Advisory Committee was part of the whole study process. We have a Clean Freight Corridor Study Committee, just pointing us in the right direction. And it's just, the following. Fuel state coverage of 100% score. Fuel state coverage accounted for 44% of the score. Freight demand clusters accounted for 29% of the score. And existing truck volume accounted for 27%. And the scale we used was either high, medium, or low, readiness. Readiness level variables include the following. Fuel station coverage, percent of the segment located within a 5-mile buffer of fuel station. Freight demand clusters, number of nearby major freight demand clusters based on the consultancy's analysis, and the existing truck volume, which is based on the 2018 annual commodity truck volume. So all these factors, helped in getting us help get us designated corridors here. The recommended designated corridors. All right, next slide, please. After that was done, we were able to determine optimal mix of corridor designations. So we have 2 tiers of recommended corridors in our study. Our first tier of recommended clean freight corridors has 3 characteristics. It has fuel station coverage, good fuel station coverage, has adequate or close to adequate coverage of clean fuel stations within the corridor. First tier recommended corridor also has good proximity to freight demand areas. These corridors tend to be adjacent to key freight related areas. And finally, these first tier corridors have high existing truck volume. The higher the existing truck volume, the higher the score. So that'll be your first tier recommended corridors. Our second tier of recommended corridors, or recommended priority development corridors, has 2 methods of a corridor will fall into this category. This first method is that corridors have a lower score than existing fuel coverage, and it's not as close to freight demand areas and or adjacent to existing high existing truck corridors, or one of the 3 I just mentioned in comparison to recommended corridors. So in essence, these areas are not as doesn't see as much truck traffic, doesn't have the level of fuel coverage, existing, clean fuel coverage, or it's just basically not close to freight demand areas, or any one of those 3 in comparison to our higher tier recommended corridors. However, despite all that, there is still a projection in our projections, the miles that are run, there is a projected higher need for clean fuels in that corridor. So despite its shortcomings, it's projected the need for clean fuels is there. Okay, and the second method can also, a corridor can make, this tier, the second tier, is an existing gap. So in that sense, well, in this scenario, the corridor itself doesn't score well in needs or coverage, but it connects to either at least 2 other higher scoring corridors or a corridor in neighboring jurisdiction. So the corridor in itself doesn't score right, doesn't rate highly, but is next to existing corridors or corridors that are projected to have higher, need. Okay, next slide, please. All right, so here are our recommended clean freight corridors. And again, this is non-binding. This is not like we're saying we should do this. This is just sort of what's being recommended. The corridors are the following. Interstate 278, which goes through, better known as the BQE and Staten Island Expressway. It runs through Brooklyn, Queens, and Staten Island. Interstate 495 in Queens and Suffolk. Interstate 678, the entire length of the Interstate 678, which I believe is in Queens. No, it is in Queens, excuse me, and part of the Bronx, I believe. No, actually, it is in the Bronx, excuse me. Wow. Interstate 80, which is Interstate 80 east of the intersection with 287. So basically, Interstate 80 heading towards the GW Bree from its intersection with Interstate 287. Interstate 87 in Westchester and the Bronx, better known as the Major Deacon Expressway in the Bronx, and Interstate 87 in Westchester. And then Interstate 95, 2 segments, that would be, that's recommended here. So the New Jersey Turnpike north of exit 10 up to the George Washington Bridge, and the segments of Interstate 95 in Manhattan and the Bronx, or essentially the Trans-Manhattan Expressway and the Cross-Bronx Expressway. So all these corridors I just mentioned are the recommended corridors that this study produced. Next slide, please. Corridor investments. So next slide. So what are the next steps? Implementation considerations. We need further in consideration of EJ communities or communities that are, that have environmental justice implications, or has some issues in that front. We need engagement with communities who are adversely affected by freight-related pollution. We also need to examine future roles of different fuel types: EV, hydrogen, and compressed natural gas. I mean, these fuel types, what are their roles in the future? As of right now, they're playing a bigger role in the scheme of things. What will their future role hold? What will the future hold for these fuel types in, say, 15 years from now, 25 years from now, 50 years from now? For example, official New Jersey policy indicates a shift away from compressed natural gas and more towards EV. So that's New Jersey's stance. What's Connecticut's stance on this? What is the New York State stance on this? And what will their policies be in the future? Also, another implementation consideration is signage and communication plan. We have a plan to basically have signposts and communicate the availability of EV stations. Dissemination of information of clean fuel corridors, that's important for drivers. Apps such as Waze and Google Maps already have features that tell driver the location of EV chargers. However, the charging stations are typically not geared towards meeting the needs of truck drivers. So yeah, while Waze and Google Maps, they'll tell you where these stations are, where clean and fuel stations are, it usually doesn't help truck drivers who are driving larger trucks. So that would have to be addressed. And then finally, policy considerations. What are the federal funding and regulatory barriers, if they're there? They have to be taken into account. A government that's supportive of EV or cleaner fuels implementation is helpful, but if there are regulatory barriers, it can hinder the advancement of such fuels. And state and regional barriers as well as a policy that is a barrier that must be considered. So you have multi-state MOUs. What are they? What are the action plans? We need to leverage existing state incentives. And then finally, there's also local barriers that have to be overcome and considered, and in some cases overcome. All right, next slide. All right, implementation considerations. Again, trucks are not cars. You must ensure that the physical dimensions of sites can accommodate heavy trucks. So as you know, trucks are pretty big. They can be very intimidating. The stalls has to account for this. The ingress and egress, how it enters a station, how it leaves a station. This ought to be accounted for. Also, industry input is important. We need input from freight, interests to better design these stations. That must be taken into account as well. They know the industry better than we do. Also, utility coordination is of paramount importance for implementations. So, loads, megawatt plus loads for truck compatible charging hubs is important. In short, in plain English, we need more power for these stations to support trucks. If there's not enough voltage at these stations, we're going to have serious issues, or it won't meet the needs of the trucks that's out there. And finally, we must also assure that adequate natural gas distribution capacity for CNG or some hydrogen fueling sites is there. This is not going to happen overnight. We're not going to suddenly go from diesel to EV. I mean, this is going to be a process. So we do need other types of fuels, particularly natural gas, to help ease the transition, if we are going to have a transition. So all these factors have to be accounted for. Okay, next slide. All right, thank you very much for your time. If you have any questions, comments, or additional feedback, feel free to reach out to me. That's all I have, Jerry. Or Lynn, excuse me. Yeah.
All right. Thank you very much, Jerry and Leslie. I definitely think this study is very timely given all the interest at the federal level and also at the state level with our climate goals on, working towards these clean fuel vehicles and, of course, having the corridors.
Thanks so much for stopping by.
And the infrastructure to support that. Are there any questions from the members for Leslie? Okay, did we get any questions in the chat box?
Hi, this is Stephanie Brooks. There was just one question about will the documents be shared, and it will be posted onto the NYMTC website. So I responded in the chat. So look for that, and all of this information will be on the website.
All right, great. I guess, Leslie, I just asked, and Jerry, one question. When do you expect the study to be completed? Or is it completed at this time?
Yeah, the study is completed. It has been wrapped up.
Okay.
It is on the website. So folks want to view it, feel free to view it.
All right, very good. If there are no more questions, I just want to, again, thank you for that very informative presentation, and everyone will be able to get access and can get access to the materials. So I guess we will move to the next item on the agenda, which is public participation. So Andrea, do we have any registered speakers for today's meeting?
No, we do not.
Okay. Let's see. Is anybody in the room with public comments?
No, there are no public registered speakers and no other comments.
Okay, very good. And I guess we will move to the next action item, which is accepting the April 14th, 2022 meeting synopsis. And just making a note that on these action items, all materials have been posted to the NYMTC website, so you can find them at www.nymtc.org. And our first action, as I mentioned, is to accept the April 14th, 2022 meeting synopsis. And I ask that all voting members announce your name and the agency you represent when you either make or second a motion to approve. So may I have a motion to accept the April 14th, 2022 meeting synopsis?
Make a motion, Pat Gurdon, Rockland County.
Okay, Rockland County makes a motion. Do I have a second?
Second, Chris Chatterton, Suffolk County.
Okay, Chris in Suffolk County, thank you. Does anyone object to this motion? Hearing no objections, the meeting synopsis is accepted. So thank you, everyone. The next item is to adopt resolution number 539, selection of projects for funding through the federal fiscal years 2020 and 2021, section 5310, enhanced mobility of seniors and individuals with disabilities program. And I'll ask David Dritz from NYMTC to introduce this resolution, and he will present from the NYMTC offices.
Good afternoon, members of PFAC. The Section 5310 committee met and over a period of a few weeks reviewed all eligible projects to fund through our program. I'd like to thank your staff for their hard work. The Enhanced 5310 program provides vehicles to the elderly and the disabled. It also includes funding for projects that enhance facilities and services that go beyond the requirements set under the American Disabilities Act. The committee selected 65 project phases totaling $18 million for traditional and $23.9 million in enhanced which is included as an attachment to the resolution. Without objection, we request for your adoption resolution number 539, selection of projects for funding through the federal fiscal years 2020 and 2021, Section 5310 Enhanced Mobility of Seniors and Individuals with Disabilities Program. Thank you.
All right, may I have a motion to adopt resolution number 539, selection of projects for funding through the federal fiscal years 2020 and 2021, Section 5310, Enhanced Mobility of Seniors and Individuals with Disabilities Program. Do I have a motion?
Renee Peter-Smith, City DOT, motion.
Thank you, Renee. City DOT puts forward the motion. Do I have a second?
Second, Kelly Sheehan, Westchester County.
Okay, a second from Westchester County. Thank you. For this, we will now vote by roll call, starting with the Lower Hudson Valley. Please state your name and your vote, starting with Putnam County.
John Tully,
Thank you.
vote to approve.
Oh, thank you. Rockland County,
Aye.
Westchester County,
Aye.
and now we'll move to Long Island and Nassau County.
David Viana, aye.
Thank you. Suffolk County,
Aye.
and moving to New York City Department of Transportation.
Renee Peter-Smith, aye.
Thank you. New York City Department of City Planning.
Jack Schmidt, aye.
Thank you. And finally, MTA. Metropolitan Transportation Authority.
Stephanie Delisle, aye.
Thank you. Okay, and the New York State Department of Transportation, Lynn Weiskopf, on behalf of Commissioner Dominguez, votes aye. So thank you all. The motion passes. And our next agenda item is to adopt resolution number 540, amendments to the state fiscal years 2021, 2022, and 2022-2023 Unified Planning Work Programs. So I will now ask Michael Chiume from the NYMTC staff to introduce this resolution.
Good afternoon. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Resolution 540 consists of amendments to two UWP program years. The first one is New York City DOT is proposing to reprogram funds from a project completed for less funds than anticipated in two projects that require additional funds. And the second one is MTA is proposing to apply newly available funds to their geospatial data project, which will extend access to this data for state agencies and MPOs for 2 more additional years. We ask you that you approve this resolution. Thank you.
All right, thank you. May I have a motion to adopt resolution number 540, amendment of the state fiscal year 2021, 2022, and 2022, 2023 Unified Planning Work Program?
So moved. Jack Schmidt, New York City Department of City Planning.
Thank you, Jack. New York City Department of City Planning forwards the motion. May I have a second?
Second, Putnam County, John Tully.
Thank you. Putnam County has provided the second. So we will now move forward with the vote. I will provide the roll call again, starting with the Lower Hudson Valley. Putnam County.
Putnam County, aye.
Thank you. Rockland County.
Rockland, aye.
Westchester County.
Westchester County, aye.
Long Island, Nassau County.
David Viana from Nassau County, aye.
Thank you. Suffolk County.
Suffolk County, aye.
And for New York City Department of Transportation.
City DOT, aye.
And the New York City Department of City Planning.
City Planning's aye.
And finally, Metropolitan Transportation Authority.
Stephanie Delisle, aye.
Thank you. And New York State Department of Transportation votes aye. So thank you, everyone. The motion passes. And we will now move to item number 4, adopting resolution number 541, which is recognition of service by Sean Sallie, Nassau County Department of Public Works. These next 3 items, starting with this one, are recognizing those who either have left or will be leaving their positions, and we want to recognize the contribution of Sean Sallie, who served as the Deputy Commissioner of Nassau County Department of Public Works and has been a member of PFAC since 2012. So thank you, Sean, for your valuable time and your contributions to NYMTC's regional transportation planning process. Certainly, we thank you for all of your service. May I have a motion to approve resolution number 541, recognition of service by Sean Sallie, Nassau County Department of Public Works?
David Viana, Nassau County, I make a motion to adopt.
Thank you. Nassau County has made the motion. Do I have a second?
Second, Rockland County.
Thank you. I have a second from Rockland County. Anyone object to this motion? Hearing no objections, this resolution passes. Would anyone like to say anything?
Sure, if I could just say, this is David Viana, Nassau County. We certainly miss Sean here in Nassau. He has been such a powerhouse of knowledge for Nassau County, and as you mentioned, has been contributing to NYMTC for several years now. So just want to extend my thanks, and I know my colleagues here in Nassau County just want to extend their thanks as well for everything Sean has done. I believe Sean might be on listening, so hi Sean, and we miss you.
Thanks so much. Anyone else? Any other members? Sean, if you are on, would you like to say a few words?
Lynn, Sean isn't on at this time.
He was unable to join. Okay, well, certainly we do appreciate his service, and the motion has passed, so thank you so much. Moving on to resolution number 542, which recognizes the contributions of Naomi Klein, who has served as the Director of Transportation Planning for Westchester County Department of Planning, and she has been an active member of PFAC since 2010, so many years. We definitely want to thank Naomi for her knowledge and contributions to NYMTC's regional planning process. And may I have a motion to adopt resolution number 542, recognizing the service of Naomi Klein, Westchester County Department of Planning?
Motion, Chris Chatterton, Suffolk County.
Thank you, Chris. Suffolk County makes the motion. May I have a second?
Second, Jack Schmidt, New York City Department of City Planning.
Thank you. New York City Department of City Planning seconds the motion. Any objections to this motion? Hearing no objections, this resolution passes. Again, does anybody want to offer any comments at this time?
Hi, Lynn. This is Jerry. I just want to point out it has been a long time that Naomi's been part of PFAC, and beyond that, she's always been a very active participant in the NYMTC planning process, and I think that should be recognized. So, as part of her job in Westchester County, she was always looking at the larger regional picture and how that affected Westchester County. So we'll certainly miss that, and we hope that Westchester continues to take that very active role into the future.
Thank you so much. Naomi, are you on the line? Would you like to say a few words?
Yes, I am. First, I want to thank Jerry for the kind words, and I just want to say that it's been a very rewarding experience for me to be working with all these professionals around the PFAC table. I've been very grateful to have the opportunity to work together to advance regional initiatives in transportation, and just want to thank you all for your support and wish you all the best of luck.
Thank you, Naomi. We wish you all the best as well. All right, item number 6, resolution number 543 recognizes the contributions of Sandra Fiscal, who served as Commissioner of Putnam County's Department of Planning, Development, and Public Transportation, and has been an active member of PFAC since 2016. So again, we thank Sandra for her time and contributions to NYMTC's regional transportation planning process, wishing her all the best. And may I have a motion to adopt resolution number 543?
John Tully with Putnam County would like to make that motion.
Thank you. I have a motion from Putnam County. May I have a second?
Second, Jack Schmidt, New York City Department of City Planning.
Thank you again to the New York City Department of City Planning. We now will move the motion. Any objections? And hearing no objections, this resolution passes. Does anyone have anything to add on this resolution?
This is John Tully from Putnam County. I just wanted to say that Sandra is no longer with us here at Putnam County. She has retired, and she always spoke very fondly of the collaboration and the support from all of the members throughout the Hudson Valley region and the NYMTC, MPO, and local project unit partners in the delivery of projects and the all the studies that are so important to the region. So on behalf of Putnam County and the commitment that Sandra had made to it, we appreciate the resolution. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Any other comments?
Yes, Lynn, I just want to extend my thanks to all three, Sean, Naomi, and Sandra. It's been such a pleasure working with them, and I will miss, their interaction, and good luck.
Thank you so much. Anyone else? Then again, I also want to acknowledge and thank the leadership of Sean, Naomi, and Sandra provided in their roles as PFAC representatives and for their respective county executives. Thank you to all three, and wishing everyone the very best as they move on to the next step in their careers. The next item is the PFAC meeting that is scheduled for Thursday, September 22nd of 2022. Details of this meeting will be made available 2 weeks prior to the meeting date. And then the next meeting of the council principals is scheduled for Thursday, October 13th of 2022, and details of this meeting will also be made available 2 weeks prior to the meeting date. I think we have reached the end of the agenda for today. And to conclude the meeting, I will ask for a motion to adjourn.
Renee Peter-Smith, New York City DOT, motion to adjourn.
Thank you. New York City DOT offers the motion. Do I have a second?
Viviana, Nassau County, second.
Nassau County has seconded. Does anyone object to the motion? Hearing no objection, then the meeting is adjourned. Thank you so much, everyone.